Ibrahim Traoré wasn't born to be a hero, but life had a way of carving men like him into something bigger. His village in Burkina Faso was a hard place, red dirt, relentless sun, and a sky that gave more heat than rain. His mother, AWA, sold groundnuts in the market, her hands tough as the shells she cracked, her laughter a rare burst of light. His father, Musa, fixed bicycles, his fingers stained with grease, his grumbles about the world's unfairness, a constant hum. Ibrahim grew up fast, chasing lizards through the dust, his sharp eyes catching details others missed. As a boy, he'd sit by the elders, their stories of a proud Burkina Faso, before the outsiders came sinking deep into his bones. He joined the army young, not for glory, but for a plate of food and a purpose. The military was a mess, old rifles that jammed, boots that tore, officers who cared more for bribes than their men. Traoré didn't whine. He listened to the grizzled soldiers, their tales of a nation bled dry by foreign hands, fueling a quiet fire in him. Why beg for guns from those who laugh at us? He'd ask over a shared pot of tow. His comrades nodded, but most just shrugged. Traoré didn't. He climbed the ranks, not by scheming, but because men saw something in him, a man who'd stand in the storm and not blink. When he took charge of Burkina Faso, it was no coronation. It was chaos, a coup, a nation on its knees, tired of leaders who sold it cheap. Traoré, barely past 30, stepped up, not for power, but because he couldn't watch his people break. The world smirked a kid in a soldier's boots, they said. He ignored them. He walked Ouagadougou's dusty streets, no guards, just him in faded fatigues, talking to market women, mechanics, kids with torn books. "What do you need?" he'd ask. And their answers, food, safety, a future, became his map. Burkina Faso was a small player in a big game, caught in a web of foreign rules. Traoré saw the trapade with chains, deals that left his country hollow. He refused to bow. He linked arms with Mali, Niger, leaders who also dreamed of an Africa unchained. Then he made a move that shook the world. He reached out to North Korea, a nation the globe treated like a shadow. Why North Korea? To Traoré, it was simple: sovereignty. Burkina Faso would choose its allies, not beg for approval. The talks happened in a bare room, just him, a flag, and North Korean envoys in stiff suits. No fanfare, just business soldier to soldier, nation to nation. They spoke of training, of survival, of standing tall in a world that wanted you small. Traoré didn't want their ideology, he wanted their grit, their proof that a nation could defy the giants. The deal started small. North Korean trainers arrived, quiet men who taught Burkina Faso soldiers to fix their own gear, to move fast in the desert, to think like hunters. Engineers came too, sharing ways to grow crops in stubborn soil. In return, Traoré gave North Korea a voice, a nod in African councils, a crack in their isolation. The world howled. Western embassies sent threats, cut aid, tightened sanctions. Pundits called him reckless, a fool who'd doom his nation. At home, some muttered, "Why risk it?" But others saw it clear. "He's our lion," a market woman said, her hands busy with yams. "He's saying we're free." Traoré stood firm. He knew the cost, had probably paced his room at night, tallying the risks. But he also knew that playing safe hadn't saved Burkina Faso. The North Korean partnership grew, a quiet thread in a larger weave of defiance. Then came the news that changed everything. After Russia sent troops to shield him from coup attempts, North Korea stepped up. 700 elite commandos, trained in the crucible of Pyongyang's Storm Corps, were deployed to protect Traoré. The world reeled. 700 North Korean Special Forces men honed for infiltration, assassination, survival. Landing in Ouagadougou was no small thing. They weren't just soldiers, they were a message. Traoré's enemies, foreign and domestic, had tried to topple him, their plots thwarted by Russian boots and Burkinabe loyalty. Now, North Korea was in the game, a new player in a land where power shifted like the Sahel's sands. The commandos arrived under cover of night, their transport plane touching down on a dimly lit airstrip. They moved like ghosts, disciplined, silent, their faces unreadable. Traoré met them, not with pomp, but with a nod, soldier to soldier. "You're here to stand with us," he said. "We stand together." The deployment wasn't just about protection. It was a signal. Traoré had enemies, Western powers who hated his nerve, local plotters who envied his power, rebels who thrived on chaos. The North Koreans were there to guard him, yes, but also to show the world that Burkina Faso wasn't alone. The Storm Corps were no ordinary troops. Trained in North Korea's brutal military machine, they were fast, lethal, fiercely loyal. They'd been taught to die before surrender, to carry out orders no matter the cost. In Burkina Faso, they weren't fighting a war. They were a shield, a deterrent, a line in the sand. Life in Ouagadougou didn't stop for the commandos' arrival. The markets buzzed, motorbikes roared, kids played in the streets. But the air felt heavier, charged with the weight of what Traoré had done. The North Koreans set up at a military base on the city's edge, their presence discreet but undeniable. They trained alongside Burkinabe soldiers, sharing skills how to spot a sniper, how to move unseen, how to turn a scrap of metal into a weapon. The locals watched, some wary, some proud. "They're here for Traoré," a young soldier said, his voice low with awe. "That means they're here for us." The world's reaction was a storm. Western capitals issued statements, their words dripping with outrage. Destabilizing, they called it, dangerous. Sanctions tightened, aid vanished, and whispers of regime change grew louder. Pundits filled screens, painting Traoré as a madman, tying his nation to a pariah state. At home, the doubters spoke up. 700 foreigners to guard one man, a shopkeeper grumbled, counting his thinning stack of francs. But the faithful saw it differently. "He's outsmarted them," a woman weaving baskets said. "They can't touch him now." Traoré didn't flinch. He walked the streets, same as always, no fear in his step. He knew the North Koreans weren't saviors. They were partners, a calculated choice in a world that wanted him dead or tamed. He met with their commander, a wiry man named Colonel Kim, whose eyes were as sharp as his own. They spoke little but understood much. "Your men are our brothers," Traoré said. "We fight for the same thing, our right to exist." Colonel Kim nodded, his face a mask, but his grip firm when they shook hands. The commandos settled in, their discipline a stark contrast to the chaos of Burkina Faso's struggles. They patrolled the presidential compound, their movements precise, their rifles never far. They trained Traoré's guard, teaching them to think like predators, to see threats before they formed. Off-duty, they were human, sharing tea with locals, marveling at the Sahel's vastness, even laughing at a child's clumsy dance. But their purpose never wavered. Protect Traoré, protect the dream he carried. The partnership deepened. North Korea sent more than soldiers. Engineers returned, building small irrigation systems, teaching farmers to defy the desert. Military advisors shared tactics, not for war, but for survival, how to hold a border, how to outlast an enemy. Traoré gave back what he could, a voice in African summits, a refusal to join the chorus condemning Pyongyang. He didn't love North Korea's system, but he respected their defiance, their ability to stand alone. The 700 commandos were the heart of it, a living symbol of two nations, saying no to a world that wanted them silent. Burkina Faso wasn't transformed overnight. The desert still burned, the economy still limped, and enemies still circled. But the North Korean shield gave Traoré room to move. He pushed for schools, for trade, for an army that could stand without foreign crutches. He traveled the Sahel, meeting leaders who saw his gamble and admired it. Mali sent advisors. Niger offered grain. The global South watched, taking notes. Traoré's name began to carry weight, not just in Ouagadougou, but in capitals far beyond. The commandos faced their own challenges. The Sahel was alien to them, its heat, its dust, its sprawling skies. Language was a barrier. Trust took time. Some Burkinabe soldiers resented the foreigners, their pride stung by the need for outside help. Traoré smoothed it over, not with speeches, but with action. He trained beside the North Koreans, sweated with them, ate their rice and their tow. "They're not here to rule us," he told his men. "They're here because we chose them." Slowly, the resentment faded, replaced by a grudging respect. The world didn't forget. Sanctions bit harder, markets shrank, and coup rumors swirled. Traoré's enemies, foreign and local, plotted, but the North Korean shield held. A would-be assassin was caught, his plan undone by a commando's sharp eye. A rebel attack fizzled, deterred by the knowledge of who guarded the capital. The 700 weren't invincible, but they were enough to give Traoré time, to let Burkina Faso breathe. He never stopped being Traoré. He ate with street kids, listened to elders, laughed with market women. The North Koreans, too, became part of the city's rhythm, less strange, more familiar. A commando helped fix a broken pump. Another taught a boy to salute. They weren't loved, but they were accepted, their presence a fact of life. Traoré's gamble had paid off, not in riches or peace, but in something rarer: choice. Burkina Faso wasn't a pawn anymore. It was a player, and the 700 commandos were proof. Traoré and the North Koreans wasn't about glory. It was about a man who dared, a nation that stood, and 700 soldiers who crossed the world to guard a dream.